UFC 291 is coming up very soon, where a rematch between Dustin Poirier and Justin Gaethje will take place in the main event of the tournament. The winner of that fight most likely will meet the champion Исла Makhachev at UFC 294 tournament, which will be held in Abu Dhabi in October. Hello friends, here is the World of MMA channel. In today's video I will give my predictions for the potential fight between Исла Makhachev and Justin Gaethje. But before I start, please do not forget to subscribe and like this video, so as not to miss future videos. Here we go. The 31-year-old Dagestani is at his peak. Now Makhachev has a streak of 12 wins in a row in the world's premier promotion and the third place in the ratings regardless of the category. Islam's career began in 2010 and he followed his older brother's path, Pro FC M1. But in contrast to Nurmagomedov, Makhachev had 11 victories, enough to be invited to the UFC. Khabib had 5 more. With an 11-0 record in May 2015, Islam made a bright debut. He choked Leo Kuhns in the middle of the second round and, as an undefeated fighter, received his next opponent. It was Brazilian Adriano Martins with a 28-7 record and a controversial win over Rustam Khabilov in his previous fight. Makhachev started confidently, pushing Martins and working at number 1. However, not even 2 minutes later, Adriano failed his opponent in one of his attacks, and with a clean right side punch inflicted his first defeat on Islam, also by knockout. Surprisingly, the Brazilian has not won again since then and has long since left the elite promotion. The Dagestanian took a break for a year, but there was also a story about meldonium, which annoyed the whole Russian sport. The return in September 2016 marked the beginning of the 12-fight winning streak that Makhachev now has under his belt. Among the defeated fighters, Nick Lentz, Gleison Tibau, Davy Ramos and Arman Tsarukyan. But Islam lacked flashy finishes, and in 2021 he began to show them. In March, he strangled Drew Dober. In the summer he led the tournament for the first time, also finishing Thiago Moises. And at the end of October, getting the most status opponent at the time, Dan Hooker. Makhachev simply decimated the New Zealander. At the end of February last year, Islam and Beneil Dariush had to decide who would be the next title challenger, but the Assyrian got injured, and instead he was challenged by a tough Bobby Green. It took the Russian fighter just under 3.5 minutes to secure another finish, his 4th in a row. Dana White couldn't ignore Islam any longer, and Makhachev got his long-awaited title shot. On the eve of UFC 280, Dagestani's haters and ardent Oliveira fans believed in Charles's chances, but the Russian fighter cleanly demolished the Brazilian and mockingly strangled the promotion's record holder by submissions. Islam then faced number 1 pound for pound Alexander Volkanovski and won by unanimous decision of the judges. Justin Gaethje is a unique fighter with the nickname Highlight. 11 fights in the world's premier promotion and 11 bonuses at once. Before meeting Khabib Nurmagomedov, each appearance in the octagon guaranteed Justin $50,000, and twice he received double bonuses, both for the fight of the evening and for the performance. Even in fights that he lost to Alvarez and Poirier he received bonuses, and those fights were nominated for Fight of the Year. Signed by the UFC with a record of 17-0 and as a serious rising star, he received immediately as an opponent the number 5 lightweight Michael Johnson. Moreover, Justin's debut was the highlight of the tournament. Looking ahead, only 3 times out of his 11 fights in Dana White's promotion. Highlight didn't top the tournament. A bright win was followed by those 2 losses, to Eddie Alvarez and Dustin Poirier, but both fighters went to the hospital after their fights. The 2 losses changed Gaethje's approach. He went from being a spectacle-obsessed fighter to a more calculated fighter. And a lot of credit goes to Highlight head coach Trevor Whitman. In the next 3 fights, he was 1 round away from knocking out his opponents. James Vick, Edson Barboza and Donald Cerrone were unable to counter anything against the updated version of Gaethje. Justin has long been well known to mixed martial arts fans, but his worldwide fame came to him in May 2020. Because of the coronavirus pandemic, the Khabib-Ferguson fight was once again derailed, and it was Highlight who came out to replace Nurmagomedov. If the first 2 rounds came out as competitors, then things changed in the octagon. Justin was just destroying Tony, who had a streak of 12 wins under his belt, and in the 5th round he achieved a triumph. And not just any fight, it looked like he broke Ferguson's will. The way El Chuchui had never been seen before, running away, escaping Gaethje's punches, and Herb Dean was forced to stop the beating. After winning the interim lightweight title, Highlight immediately dropped his belt. "I'll wait for the real thing," was Justin's explanation for his action. He waited. That fall in Abu Dhabi that year, Highlight faced the champion, but Khabib ran him over, choking him out early in the 2nd round. Gaethje took a break for a year and returned in a fight against Michael Chandler. There's no point in describing what happened in New York, because it was the best fight of 2021, and Highlight won for the first time in the UFC by decision. Then in the title fight he lost by choke to Charles Oliveira, but got back on the winning track with a win over prospect Rafael Fiziev. Let's start with Justin Gaethje's striking. Everyone knows his hard low kicks, thanks to which he has injured the legs of quite a few fighters. He also uses different combinations and good jabs in his fights. In his last fight against Fiziev, everyone thought that Rafael could overpower him in the stand-up. But Justin showed real skill. He smashed Fiziev's face with his jabs and did a lot of damage to his legs. Now let's move on to Islam Makhachev's striking. In this aspect, Islam grows with each fight. In his last fight against Volkanovski, he showed that he can compete with the best punchers. He looked good against the Aussie and even managed to beat him on his hands. It's going to be hard to decide who the favorite is here, so I'm going to call it even. Let's start with Islam Makhachev. He is one of the best wrestlers in UFC history. There is no one in the lightweight division who can match him in that aspect. Everyone thought that Oliveira would be his rival in the grappling. However, Islam declassified the Brazilian and destroyed him in wrestling and grappling. He was also moving Volkanovski and controlling on the ground. He has different submissions and best control in the lightweight division. Now let's move on to Gaethje's wrestling. Justin was originally a freestyle wrestler where he achieved quite a bit. But then he learned the stand-up skills and moved to MMA, where he prefers to fight in the stand-up than in wrestling. But we saw in his fights with Khabib and Oliveira his wrestling. He lost to both with a choke and was unable to provide anything in that aspect, so naturally Islam Makhachev will be the favorite in wrestling. I think Islam Makhachev is going to win this fight because of his wrestling. He'll put Justin on the canvas and do a sub. What do you think, my friends? Write your opinion in the comments. Goodbye, everybody.